Hello and welcome to the introduction of Clik Remote Site and the Dashboard login webinar. Hope everyone is safe and well. I'm Phil, the training manager, and today we have a special guest, Ed Gunner, who is an account manager at Clik.
Hi, Phil.
Hi there.
All right.
So you can see our little mugs here. So we've got Phil, me, the trainer manager, and we've got Ed, the account manager. What we're going to do today is we're going to be discussing the two new logins for site login and dashboard login for the Clik Remote tools that we use. We're just going to go through the agenda. So what we'll do is we'll go through what is Clik Remote Site. That's the first thing that we'll go through. Me and Ed will have a little chat about what we'll explain how to use this and how you may use it and how it may benefit you. I will then go through a demo of how Clik Remote Site works, and I'll show you how it works and go through how to set it up, how to set that site login up, and then we'll talk about the Clik Remote Dashboard login, and we'll go through what that is and how that may benefit you as well. And then we'll go through how that Clik Remote Dashboard works. I will go through how to set up a dashboard login, and I'll show you how to create a dashboard as well, like a counter widget and also a graph widget, so you can understand how that works. And we'll also talk about thresholds as well and how you can put thresholds on dashboard counter widgets. They can be very, very useful. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll have a short Q&A for 10 minutes of any questions that you've got there. So I'll just go into the next slide, and you should be able to see a question box on your audio, which you should find there. And you can put your question in there, and we can look through those questions at the end of the webinar. And that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go through Clik Remote Site. So Ed, what is the Clik Remote Site login, and how do you think your customers will use it, Ed? How do you think they'll use Clik Remote Site?
Right, yeah, so this will be a unique login for the site or group of sites, which we think will be quite common, rather than just a login for the whole customer. So they'll only see information relating to their own sites, and you can control and tailor it better rather than being like, an across the board login. We think it'd be useful for your most important, your larger customers, but it's going to have quite a wide range of uses. When we say a group of sites, that could be for someone like an area manager, just as an example. So say if your customer, it's like a supermarket like Aldi, you want to give the area manager of the Southwest just access to Southwest region sites. Does that make sense? So now
that
that's
makes sense.
possible.
Yeah, that sounds good. So that's how I envisage it as well. Definitely using it for area managers. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's one use, isn't it? It's going to have quite a few, and we're covering the whole service industry, aren't we? But that's how we sort of envisage it. It could be one login per site. It doesn't have to be an area manager. You might just want individual site logins just for that one site. But you control what they see anyway. So that the dashboard, as it says there, customers will see relevant job information just for their site or range of sites. The dashboard will be tailored to them, and then obviously you can do everything else within remote. So accepting and rejecting quotes, viewing service instance, that will be the same as remote, but it just has that unique site login for it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks for that, Ed. That's how totally. I see. Yeah, I think you're right. I think what we got there on the slide, you're going to be able to see all the relevant job details for that site, and you can accept and reject quotes if you want to. And the site manager, if you like, or the area manager could raise service instance and track that progress, and they'll be able to view site history. So I think the use case there for area managers is a good one. So what we'll do now is we're going to go through how you set up a Clik Remote Site login. So just bear with me whilst I bring up my Clik service, because that's where we're going to start from. So as you can see, hopefully you can all see my Clik service database in here. And now the first thing that we are going to do is we are actually going to go into settings. So when you're in settings, if you click on Clik Remote, you'll see manage users and settings. And this is where you could create your site logging if you do purchase some site logins. On that note, actually, Ed, how much is Clik Remote Site going to be?
It's £100 per login, £60 a year support, but it will be scalable depending on the number of logins you want. So it is all relative.
Excellent.
So yeah, if you are interested in getting site logins, just contact your account manager and they'll send some prices over.
Excellent. All right, brilliant, cool. So once you have a user, and if you purchase a user from us, what you can do is then create that login. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on new user at the top here, and then you'll notice welcome to the Clik Remote user setup wizard. Now, for anyone who does have Clik Remote set up, you will be able to see this. So if you can click on the bottom, you'll see that we've got dashboard and we've got site. So we're going to click on site and we're going to click on create, and then we create a username. So it's not linked to the user, staff database or the customer database. This is a username that you will create. So for this one, I'm going to do A1 design, and I'm going to do area manager. So that's going to be my username for one of my customers to have access to one of their sites. So if I click on next, you'll now get the opportunity to add some sites. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add sites. Now I know the customer that I want to select is A1 Design Services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and click on customer. I'm going to click on A1 Design Services. And now I can select the sites that I want this user to have access to. In this case, I'm actually just going to do head office just for now. But I could say I want it to be, if it was the North branches, I might tick Manchester as well and the other Blackpool site if possible. But in this case, I'm just going to do OK and press 1. Now, what I'm also going to show you is something you could also do. You could actually add another site from a different customer. Now, this might be a use case for some of those people that, for whatever reason, in the CRM have their sites in the CRM as well, but they're sort of under the umbrella of another company, and there might be some people that would need access to those different sites too. However, I don't envisage this to be used a lot, and you will get a warning at the end saying you have done this, and I want to show you that warning just to show you how it copes with that. So we can click on add sites. I can then find a different customer. So I'm going to go for Edward Stewart. I'm going to click home address and I'm going to press OK. So as you can see, it's a different customer and a different site. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to click on next. And then I've got my privileges, and these privileges are very important. So this determines what access you want your user to have access when they go into the site login. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to right click and I'm going to tick allow all. However, I'm just going to go through a few of the main privileges that I'd consider taking off if you're using Clik Remote Site. So I probably wouldn't want them raising job sheets. I like to usually train people that they raise service instance if they got Clik Remote Customer or Clik Remote Site. So they don't actually raise job sheets and end up assigning engineers that you were unsure about if they were free. So we don't want customers and people using the site login to be able to do that. However, you could allow them to do that if you want to. So you'll notice here, you've got category jobs, they can access it, they can create jobs, they can create PDFs, they can view site documents. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deny create. I might allow them to create PDFs, that's fine, and allow them to view site documents, but I also might deny the notes to be visible as well. So those are some of the things that you might look at. You'll also have a look at quotes as well. Obviously, you might not want them to create quotes. You don't have that option anyway in here, so that's fine. But you might not allow them to create the PDFs or print out basically the PDFs that come off that quote. So you can deny that too. And you might not allow them to sort of edit service instance. So once they've created it, they can't edit it and they log it, it goes into there. So those are the sort of things that you might look at doing. And you might not give them access to the site and equipment history either, but you could do. So it'd be nice if those particular site account managers can still have a look at documents that you might have on that particular site and on those particular pieces of equipment that you've got for them. But it's very important to go through this and make sure you're happy with the content that you're giving that user. Okay, I'm going to deny the documents and terms and conditions as well, because actually that won't be relevant to the site. So you won't need that regardless. There won't be anything you can do with that particular part there. So
Yeah, what we've
the next bit,
sorry,
go on.
I was just going to say we've found like the ability to create service instance quite popular. So not jobs
Yeah.
obviously, but so an initial service instance if they just want to log something without
Yeah,
giving
no,
them
totally.
access to jobs.
That's exactly what you would be
That's what
looking
we've
at,
come
I
across
think. So
quite far.
that's
Yeah.
what we've come across. That tends to be our kind of the normal process if they've got Clik Remote Customer or Clik Remote Site, that they will log service incidents first. And then you guys in the office will log a job based on those particular service incidents. You can also give them access
We
to
didn't
report
tell
as
people
well.
to. Yeah, we didn't tell people to do that. It just seems to sort of naturally happens that people
Yeah,
want
I
to give.
tend to
Yeah.
when I
Access.
train is I go through that way really for Clik Remote and Clik Remote Site, just because
Oh, it
it,
makes
it
sense.
makes a bit more sense, because they could end up assigning engineers or whatever that they don't know is free, and you would rather have that particular responsibility assigning the right engineer to the right kind of job. So that's why I kind of go through that sort of way, but it's entirely up to you. Obviously, if you want, you could allow your customers to create jobs still. Okay, right, we're going to move on from privileges. I'm going to click on next. At this point, you can potentially add reports, or you could add some print templates as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add report, and you're going to see these reports. There's only a few reports. A lot will be blanked out. They won't be supported. And these reports might come from the reporting database, but they could see things, for example, active quotes this month. That might be quite useful for that particular site, so they'd be able to see them. You've also got the ability, if they want to be able to print out those quotes or print out job sheets, you can give them that particular opportunity. So you could say, okay, well, yeah, I'm quite happy for you to print out a job sheet that's quite customer specific, that has the details about the job. You could give them that access if you wanted to. So very similar to Clik Remote Customer, if any of you use that, but we're just saying it's site specific instead with this particular user. So I'm going to just do quote itemized in there. So we've got those two. Okay, so the next bit we're going to go to, we'll go back, hang on a second. I just went a bit too fast. So the next bit is adding a dashboard widget. So even though we're going to be talking about dashboards later, you can have dashboards in any of our Clik Remote tools. It's not necessarily you have to have the Clik Remote dashboard. It's another tool that is solely based on the dashboard, but you can still put dashboard widgets on the other Clik Remote tools, like Clik Remote Engineer, Clik Remote Customer, Clik Remote Sales, and obviously the Clik Remote Site login as well. So in here, it might be things like jobs created today. You might put that in, for example, so they can see which ones have been created. So I can just highlight it, but I can also press Control and select a few as well. So I could say what was completed last month, what was completed this month. So I've got those three in there. So those things, and you might sort of, depending on the site user, you can sort of decide which kind of widgets you want them to have and be able to view. Okay, so once that's happy, once you're happy with that, we'll click next. And then this is where we're going to get that warning. So please be aware that this login has access to sites of multiple customers in Clik CRM. This login will have access to information about these customers. So it's giving you that warning. However, if it's something you do need to do, then fine, you can just carry on and click next. But if you know that you've made a mistake and go, oh God, no, I do not want Edward Stewart or A1 Design Servicing seeing Edward Stewart's information or job sheets and quotes. So you might go back to the site selection, you then select that particular customer and site description, and then click on remove selected sites, and then that will disappear, and then they no longer will have access to it. But the option is there if you have that ability, or you need to have that ability to do it. Now, when you go back, you'll come back to the password, and you just sort of put in the password that you should be able to just populate in here. So I'm just going to populate a password. And then I'm going to save that user. So we saved that user. So we've now got A1 Design Area Manager, and that login is enabled. So my next step is I'm going to show you now what that will look like, what Clik Remote Site will look like. So let's just do that.
You remembered your password then?
Yeah, yeah, that's it, exactly. Got to remember your password. I'm carrying it on with the same one. As you can see, been doing a few of these. So that's now going to log in. And now we're going to see the Clik Remote Site. I'm just going to enlarge that screen so you can see it all in here. It's going to just do the dashboard for us. So as you can see, we've got some dashboard items in there, and click on the three dots in here just to bring that up. So I've got my little menu on the three dots on the top left-hand side. So you can see jobs created today. There's been 2. We haven't completed any this month, and we haven't completed any last month. So that's something that you might just show your customers or their site area managers, just to show what they can see and what they can view. They can play around with this dashboard here. They've got medium and large. We'll go through that in a bit more detail when we do the dashboard login as well. But as you can see, they've got access to service incidents. So this is where I'd expect them to probably create a service incident and raise that. So then you could log a job from there. So for example, we might go to new service instance in the top right-hand side. You can see that they can only select that one location because that's the only site that they've got access to. We'll put call out. Ooh, watch my spelling. And then we've got customer ref as well. So if they have a customer ref, they put that in, but they literally just put the description of the problem. So leak in bathroom. You know, that's the sort of thing that you might do. So you're only really giving them access to certain bits of that service instance. So we click on save. You're going to get that actually in your Clik service. It'll be populated in there. Now, as I said, they do have the option to click on edit. So if you have given them an option, they could edit in here and they could edit some more information if they need to. But they can also click on add and they could add a document if they needed to add a document basically to this particular service incident. So they do have that ability as well. Right, so what we're going to do is go back to Clik service just to show you how that looks in Clik. So you can see that service incident that's raised. So basically you're allowing them to raise a service incident. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that service instance. So we're going to go to modules and we go to service instance. And we're going to see that service incident in here. So you'll see number 6. You can click on there and then you can start putting in, you might have some more details that populated that they've allowed to put in, but then you might then create the job sheet from here. So you go to job sheets, click on new, and then that creates the job sheet for that particular site. And it's come from that service incident that they've originally raised. So let's go back to Clik Remote and then go to jobs, and then we should see that new job that's been added. Yeah, you can see it in here, 274. So that's been added, and you can go into there. They can go into there and see information about that particular job sheet. Okay. As you can see, they can also have access to jobs and they can view those jobs. So they can click on those job sheets and you're giving them access to be able to view those jobs, but they won't be able to do any editing or anything like that. They will be able to see any activity, any invoices that related to that job sheet, quotes, jobs, and then obviously the service incident as well is related. So they'll be able to see that with this particular user login. Okay, they've also got access to the quotes as well. So if there are any quotes, you can see that there's one quote in here. You'll notice that that's been accepted. So we're allowed to accept that quote. What I'm going to do is quickly arrange a quick quote so you can see how that works. So if I go into quotes and click new quote, let's create a quote for that particular site. Make sure it's the head office. And we'll put some items in. So we're just putting in some quote details just to show you how it works. I'm not going into too much detail about how quotes work, but we're going to just go into the Clik Remote. So that quote will populate in here. So it means the customer or the site area manager can go into here and he can go to actions and he can accept or reject that quote. And you can arrange a property change notification that says that that customer has rejected that quote or accepted that quote. I can't remember what I did. Did I say accepted? Yeah, accepted. So we click accept. That's done, and then that one's accepted as well. And then you can get a property change notification that comes into Clik Service that suggests that that area manager from that particular site has accepted that particular quote. That's something you could give them as well. Okay, so the next step one is accounting. So obviously they could be able to see any invoicing and any credits for that particular site. Again, if it is for that particular site, they will show on here. They won't be able to obviously create new invoices, but they will be able to sort of print out that list if you give them that access to do it. They've still got the filter abilities as well, so they can filter between date ranges, and they can also customize the columns that they want as well. And again, they can see their various contracts too, so you'll be able to see the contracts for that particular customer, and you'll be able to see them there. And you'll be able to see the reports that they've also got access to. So I click on reporting. There's the active quotes. As you can see, it's only showing the ones that are for that customer. So A1 Design Services is in here. They won't be able to obviously see every active quote that you've done. It will be very particular for that site login. And then F-gas as well. So if you are an F-gas user, it would only be F-gas systems for that particular site. So you can see here there's a small system that we've got in here as well. And they'll be able to see cylinders as well that you may have left on that particular site. So you'll be able to see them too. Next bit is the settings, and this might be something you might help them set up. So for example, once you've given that login, you might say you might go into settings and you might say, okay, you might want to auto refresh that dashboard. If it's a site login that's always on the go and there's always jobs being created for them, they might want that auto refresh flexibility, so the dashboard is always changing with different numbers, etc. The dashboard refresh frequency is 5 minutes. The default landing page is dashboard. The dashboard default search type is job, and the diary schedule item is job number as well. That's another thing as well. They do have access to the diary, and it's only going to give them kind of jobs that basically are in that diary. So if I click on events on here and I click on job, for example, it's going to show all the jobs that we created for that one. If we go to the next month, we should see quite a few here, and we can see the ones that we've created today as well. So they will have that kind of diary view if they need it. Okay, so that's what they got there. They've also got help and support as well. So if they need to, we will have some knowledge-based articles on how to use Clik Remote Site. They are on our site at the moment, so you'll be able to go and read those articles, or they will be able to read those articles as well if you want them to, and be able to view those guides too. And that really is kind of it, basically. There is some notifications here. They won't need to worry about that, the site update, but they can't run a site update, so they won't be able to do that. And then we can log out, and we're going to log out of that Clik Remote Site. So that's Clik Remote Site and the login for Clik Remote Site login. If you do have any questions, please put them in the questions tab and we'll have a look at them later, and we'll go through some of those questions. Right, okay, so I think the next thing really is a little bit about the dashboard. So what we're doing is I'm just going to bring up my presentation again. Just bear with me 1 second. And we're going to talk about Clik Remote Dashboard. About the site. Oh, yeah, that's good.
We've had a few questions.
Good. We'll have a look at them at the end. Cool.
Yeah.
Right then, so the dashboard. So Ed, how do you see your customers using the dashboard, and what do you think the main uses will be?
Yeah, so the dashboard, the main benefit of the dashboard is for you to see, for you or anyone in the company to see an overview of what's happening on one screen. This is live figures coming from your Clik database in Office or wherever it's installed. Previously, well, at the moment, as most people know, you just have the basic CRM and Clik service as the front screen, which is, nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't give you live information on a front screen, so you can just see in one go what's going on. It will be tailored, obviously, so usually job focused, but it can be used for other areas like invoicing, quotes, POs. So you customize what you want to be seeing. There's an example of what we think might be the type of things you'll be looking for, but I mean, it's so customized that could be nothing like what you're actually going to be viewing. But just as an example, sort of some basic reports in there. So, outstanding jobs for the day. If you want to see that on a front screen, that's now possible in the dashboard. It has been around in Clik Remote Manager, but this is the first time you don't need Clik Remote for it. It's a separate module, so it could potentially be your first point of call in the morning, just to see on one screen. It could be. I mean, a lot of people will have it on a permanent screen, we think.
Yeah,
in
got
the
a big
office.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be an office anymore. You could have it at home. So that list is what we think might be useful. It's just reports coming out of Clik, basically, of Clik
Yeah.
service. But it's real-time data as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the important thing. Yeah, I think it's going to also probably help with sort of KPIs maybe. So you've got those kind of figures up there, so you can see your key performance index. You can see what's happening real time, basically, with your company.
A lot of people use it. I think a lot of people will use it for SLAs, but in its basic sense, you could just use it for jobs that you need doing for the day or for the week. It doesn't have to be too fancy.
Right, another bit as well, what we played with as well was invoice value per month, or you could set a target, and we'll talk about thresholds when we go through the dashboard reports, but you can set a target basically that it could be you've got a target of £10,000, and if it goes over that, the threshold will change green, knowing that you've reached your target. Basically, it's stuff like that in terms of invoicing. So it could be used for things like that, and we'll go through that now in quite a lot more detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Clik Service again, and we're going to go through how you can create a dashboard login, but also how you can create a dashboard report as well. So let's do that. Let me just bring up Clik Service. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to settings up here. We're going to go into Clik Remote, and we're going to go manage users and settings. So what you've got here is we're going to go to new user again, and I'm going to click on dashboard this time. I'm going to click create, and as you'll notice, this is a lot simplistic than the site login. You've only got 3 stages basically. You're creating a username, and then you're creating the widgets that you're going to have access to. So I'm going to call this just dashboard. Oh, I've already got one of them, so I've used it so many times. Dashboard 7 I'll go for. Excellent. So I click next. I then will add the dashboard widgets that I want to be shown on my big screen. So internally in the office, this is how we envisage it to be used. So we're going to click on add dashboard widget, and we're going to click on a few of the ones that we want. So I'm going to click on a couple, and then I'm actually going to create one as well. So if we do jobs created today, for example, I'll click on add the dashboard widget again, and it might be jobs outstanding. And then you could also have things like, so these are counter widgets. These are just going to have a widget on them. And then you might have things like quote value this month as well. So you can really mix it up with financials or job specific kind of widgets. And then we're going to create a few as well. Create one more just to show you how it's done. And we'll put a chart in as well, so you can see how a chart works. So for example, I might do jobs outstanding by category. So you've got that chart in there. So we've got 3 counter widgets and 1 chart at the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to create one. I'm going to create one around invoicing, so you get an idea of how that works. And we'll talk about thresholds as well, and SLAs. So if we click on next, we then just put a password in. It's really as simple as that in terms of creating the dashboard widget that you want, dashboard login. And I'm just going to put in a password. I'm going to click Save User and close the wizard. So that dashboard 7 is now in there. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a few things at the top here so you can see how that's used. And again, like I said, this doesn't necessarily have to be for the dashboard login. If you've got Clik Remote Engineer, if you've got Clik Remote Manager, if you've got Clik Remote Customer, if you've got Clik Remote Sales, you can have these widgets on there too. Okay, so we're going to click on New Counter Widget. And you'll notice these are all the places where I can create a widget. So these are all the modules that you can. So you've got quite a lot of flexibility in creating these widgets. We're going to go through, I'm going to go through invoice summary actually, and we're going to go through the threshold thing. I'll also do another one called service level agreement as well, so you've got an understanding how that works. But we're going to click on invoice summary. I'm going to click next. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to filter by month. So if I do invoice date, and I'm going to click on the little calendar entry here, and I'm going to say this month, because what I want to do is get a target for every month, and then I want a threshold on that month. So I click next, and then it says what property you wish to get the value of. Well, what I want is the total. We're going to go total net, for example, and we want the sum, so the total of all the invoices as one figure. I'm going to click next again. So I'm going to say invoice target. I'm going to call it that for invoice target. Ooh. So what we can do is we can say that actually it's going to be red. The value type is the value. And then what we're going to say is we're going to enable the threshold action. So what does that mean? So what it means is that I'm going to say that if it gets over 10,000, then it's actually going to turn into green. So it's kind of just assuming that you've reached your target, basically. That's what that threshold action is doing, that threshold value. You can obviously change the color if you want to, but you'll notice change color if current value is above the threshold value. My threshold value is 10,000, so it will change to green if it reaches that target. So that's the sort of thing that you might think of using the threshold for. We'll click next. And then you get the opportunity to choose where you want that dashboard to be. So in this case, I might want it to be in dashboard 7. But I could put it in an area manager if I wanted to, or I could put it into any of my Clik Remote engineers, or I could put it into my Clik Remote sales or Clik Remote customers or Clik Remote manager. So you do have that flexibility. So click finish, and then that dashboard is also going to be on that particular one. Same principle, we can do new counter widget. I'm just going to do service level agreement just to show you that one. And this one is basically going to be, if it's triggered, equals yes. So what we're saying here is if my SLA has reached a trigger point, and it's reached that trigger point, it's going to be part of this counter widget that I'm going to create. So if I click on next, what I can say is I want a count. And you'll notice you've also got time over as well. And it's going to count all of the triggers that have been yes, but I might have a threshold on that. So it could be that I might say, well, do you know what? If we've got 15 jobs that have gone over our trigger points, then we need to get a move on and start working out where we can fit these jobs in to make sure that they don't go below the SLA. So I'm going to put in SLA trigger. And then I'm going to say green value type is just a count. But I could say that if it goes above this threshold, so if it goes above 10, then I want it to change into red. So basically it'll be green until it reaches 10, and then it will go into red as soon as it hits 11. And that's because you kind of might say, okay, well, we've got 10 jobs now that have gone into our trigger point. That might action you into doing things. So that's the sort of thing you could possibly use your dashboard login for. If you put it on your big TV. Again, like I said, you can put it in other modules, but we're going to put it in dashboard 7 just so we've got that in there. So that's how you can create new counter widgets. Now, the next thing that we got is new chart widgets as well. So there is the possibility of creating chart widgets. Now, your chart widgets do have to be created from reporting originally. So you'll notice on the drop-down box that you've got here, you've got lots of different sort of chart reports or charts, but they need to be created in reporting first, and then you'll be able to see some of these developed in here. You can't actually create a chart widget from this point. You would have to create those reports in reporting. If you want more access on reporting, we do offer some training on reporting if you need to, and we can go through that. Right, I think we'll just choose, we'll go for that one. And then we can add that to a dashboard if we want to, and press OK. So that's now put those widgets and charts into dashboard 7. So what we're going to do is just quickly go through widget manager as well, so you know how that works. So you can go through Widget Manager. So even though we did it per login, you can say, well, actually, I want a few more users to have access to widgets or graphs that I've already created. And then you can do that too. So for example, I want them to have access to job completed week. You can go through that process of building that report. You could change it if you wanted to. Go to next, go to count, and then you could put a threshold on here if you wanted to, and click next, and then you can decide which users you wish to have access to that particular widget or counter widget. Okay, so that's it in terms of setting it up. Let's go and have a little look to see what that looks like when we go on to Clik Remote Dashboard. So I think I call it Dashboard 7. Hopefully I remembered my password. Let's just log in. There you go. So we got a lot of information flowing through us at the moment. So you can see you've got 2 graphs and we've got 4 widgets at the top. So my SLA trigger is in green. I must have a look at the colors for that. But we've got jobs created today, jobs outstanding, quote value this month. And then we've got these 2 at the side down here. Now, what I'm going to do is just check to see if I've got my invoice value on, because I wanted to show you that threshold. So let's just go back to the Clik Remote setup and make sure that I've got all that I want. So let's go into account widget manager, and I'm going to go into SLA trigger. Yep. Do you know what? I didn't put it on, did I? There we go. So I'm going to put 10 on, so you can see that turns into red. Goes above that threshold. Next, dashboard 7, finish. What was the other one we were going to do? I think it was going to be invoice target. That was it. So invoice target. Oh, go in there. Oh, sorry. Widget manager. Invoice target. Sum total net above this threshold. Invoice target. Invoice green. Maybe we haven't got any invoices for them, or I didn't put it in the right one. Dashboard 7. There we go. I didn't select him. So click finish. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to my website, and we just click refresh. And that should populate. So we should see, there you go. So SLA trigger has turned into red because it's gone over above the threshold of 10. And you'll see my invoice target is nice and lovely and green because we've gone over our target of 10,000 that we put for that month. So that's something you could kind of look at if you wanted to. Now let's talk about how you can sort of configure this screen as well. So what you'll notice is you've got M and OW. So at the moment it's called a medium kind of widget. But if you click on OW, it makes it larger. So you can make some of these larger and it will kind of format to kind of fit them all in. So now we've got 2 large at the top and then we've got these 3 at the bottom. Now you can drag and drop these. So you can drag and drop them so they move. And you'll be able to do that if you want to. Now, what you can't do currently is you can't move your graphs. Your graphs are always going to be at the bottom. That's something we are looking to change, but that is something that will be at the bottom on here. But as we said, and I think Ed, the case is that this could possibly be on a big screen somewhere in your office. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, that's what we think will be it'll be quite popular. So if you do have a spare monitor lying around, you might already have one on a wall somewhere, because it does suit that kind of overview screen. So you can have multiple. You might want multiple people looking at it at the same time. So yeah, ideally a screen on a wall. But if you're a service manager and you have 2 screens, you might want this just on the other one.
Yeah, no, that's it.
If you just constantly want to be looking at what's going on in the company, then you might want this as a permanent screen somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's something I think would be useful. You might have it in different parts of the company which show different information. So you might have one for financial, one for job specific stuff, and one for sort of a general sort of service management sort of stuff as well. So you do have that flexibility of having multiple dashboard logins if you want. Just so you know, you've also got your 3 bars at the top here where you've got your settings, and you can auto refresh them as well, and the default landing page. But that's really kind of all what the dashboard widget is, or the dashboard login is. I think Ed, I don't think we discussed price on dashboard login. What's the price for dashboard login?
It's £100 a license, one off, and £60 a year support or support and updates. Yeah.
Okay,
So
excellent. Right.
yeah, that's it basically. Same as a Clik Jobs
Cool.
license, funnily enough.
Okay, so I think the next
Yeah,
bit we're going to have.
about
I think what we're going to do
Sorry,
now
carry
is
on.
just we'll have a little look at some of the questions. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to find the questions tab, and then we'll have a look at these questions to see what we got. Questions
I'll try to
thing on here.
answer most of them, I think.
Oh, that's
But
good.
you might want to go. So one I wasn't sure about was
Yeah.
how much job information on the job is included on the diary. So that's the site
Okay, good
login.
question. Good
So
question. Not on the site login. Okay, so we'll go through that briefly. So how much information, it's depending on what you want to do. So there is some configuration in terms of how much information you want to give them on the site login. What I'm going to do is I'll go through that site login now. So I'll just log out and just show you what happens in the diary. So you've got an understanding of how that works. So let's just go into my A1 design again.
that was from Xian.
Sean, okay. So if we go into the diary, they will be able to see it in the diary. And obviously all they can do really is click on it and it will give the information of where it is. And if they click on it, they get access to that job sheet. So they will get access to that job sheet. As you can see, there are quite a few things missing. If you don't want these financials in terms of how much you're charging them, you can get rid of them. And it's something we haven't really discussed, but it's something you can do in the remote setup. So you'll see this one called View Manager. You can get a little bit more sort of detailed about what you want them to do in case of financials and what you want them to display. So if it's something you say, well, actually, I don't want A1 Design to have that access. I'm not going to be able to do it on here because I haven't got the setup actually required to do it. But you will be able to basically say, okay, well, I don't want them having access to financial information about the totals of the job. Although obviously it's probably what you're going to be invoicing them anyway, but they will have that kind of access. Try and see if I can do it for another user, maybe. Let's just show you that. So this is what it would look like. So you've got your details in here. You'll notice you can take away costs. They're never going to see costs anyway. That's not going to happen. But you can take away those things if you want to do that. And you can take away other things that you might not want to display as well. And even in lists as well, materials times materials. But I don't think they actually have access to that anyway. So you'll see in here, they will have access to materials yet. They can view details, but they will just see the quantity. There is no total in there, and it's not how much you're paying for that particular material. They don't see that information. The only bit they do see is the financials, how much they need to pay for that particular job sheet, which is probably going to be the same as the invoice, to be honest. So it is quite restricted in terms of what they see in terms of prices, if that's what you're worried about. Okay, so that's that question. I'm just going to have a look. I think, yeah, can customers see F-gas logs? Yeah, so I mean, Clik Remote Customer, they can already, but yeah, it's on a site level, this one, so they'll only be able to see on a site level, which is absolutely fine. So they can get to F-gas logs and they'll be able to see those logs in there. If you've got those logs. So I'm just in here at the moment. I don't think I've got anything in here, to be honest. Let's just do this here, see if I can, there we go. So there's a couple of log entries that we've put in previously on this particular site. So you'll be able to see them. Okay, we've also got, can I issue the Clik Remote Site login details to multiple users? If so, can multiple users be logged in simultaneously? No, you can't do that. So once they've logged into that user, you won't be able to log in again with the same user, as far as I know.
Right.
But I will
Yeah,
double check that with tech support.
because you can obviously give users multiple users the same login because we can't control that anyway. But yeah, I didn't know about simultaneously logging at the same time if it actually logs you out, the other person
It logs you
logs
out,
them
so it
out.
does. That's the behavior in other Clik Remote apps in the tools. That is the behavior. If I logged in and someone tried to log in with A1
Yeah.
Design Area Manager now, that would actually cause a problem, and it will say it will just knock someone else out, and you won't see it. So you can't really do
Yeah,
that once you log
I
in.
suppose. Yeah, but you could give multiple users, if they're going at different times, or if they're only occasionally
Yeah.
logging in, then there's nothing wrong with, you know,
Oh, there's nothing
giving
wrong with that.
multiple
You can give.
people the same login.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, but they might have problems if someone logs in again and knocks them out, basically, on a service incident. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I suppose it depends on how regularly they're logging in, how often they're using it.
yeah.
Like if they're, you know, constantly going in, then you will want to, you will want multiple logins for it, because otherwise the other person will get kicked out all the time.
Yeah, exactly. The other person will get kicked out at a time, so you would need multiple logins if that is the case. If it isn't the case that they're just going to be using it occasionally, then you might just give that login detail to those people. Okay, so the next one is service incident. What is a service incident? Does this report on issues ready to raise a job sheet to resolve? Do something that each have an individual number, which means your types of PO. They do have individual numbers. You don't tend to see it. It's kind of like that pre-job, as Ed has sort of explained. So you log that initial fault, and then you'll be able to resolve it either then and there, and potentially on the phone with them. And then you'd raise a job sheet if you needed to go and do a call out and stuff like that. I would say that anything
Oh,
involving
sorry, yeah, I
renting
didn't.
it or going outside and doing anything would be that you would go out and do that particular job sheet. So yeah, you do get a number with it though. They
Yeah,
do
sorry, I didn't
service
fully
incidents,
answer that question.
do service incidents each have an individual number which can be used as a type of PO? Could do, but I would expect the customer to probably put the PO as a part of their reference. And then you would create a purchase order on a job sheet if you needed to buy materials or labor for that particular job. What is the difference between Clik Remote Site and Clik Remote Customer? Yeah, so customer login, you basically got access to all of the sites, as Ed is saying. With the site login, you only have access to the sites that you've given access to. So it's just sort of narrowing it down. So we have a lot of customers. I'll give an example of like Audi, for example. They will probably say we only want this particular user to have access to the north branches of Audi. We don't want them having access to the east, south, and west branches. Therefore, we're just cutting it down to that amount. So it kind of helps with that, really. What are the costs for dashboard? Ed's already been through that. So £100 a license, £60 a year. Yeah. Do the dashboard widgets refresh in real time? Good question, Holly. Yeah, it will do. It will refresh every 5 minutes. That's about as low as we can go. Hopefully that's enough. But yeah, it will do that. Do we get notifications of client accept a quote?
Oh, yeah, there's
Yes, you do.
a setting.
That's a good question. Yes, you will get a notification of the client accepting a quote. Now, what you need to do is you need to set a property change notification up. So that's within Clik Service. If none of you know about this, it's basically in settings and settings. And then if we go into communication and property change notification, and we click on add, you can add lots of different property change notifications. But in this case, we're going to have a look at quote. So if you look at quote, you'll notice that you've got quote status. So if that changes to accepted, which is one of the statuses, so you've got accepted in here. Oh,
Yeah,
I've already got one that exists with that
I thought it
target, so
must
it
do it.
must pay it up. Yeah, it will do it. So, yep,
Yeah,
okay.
because you need to be, otherwise you won't know that.
Yeah, so it will do it. I'm just going to close down my Clik because that's not disappearing that message, because I already have the quote status in there and it's just complaining that I've already created that property change notification. But I'll just get rid of Clik now. But yeah, you can do that as long as you learn property change notification. We do have an FAQ on that as well, KBs and stuff about property change notification on our support site if you need to. Okay, so can we?
Yeah, so the notification can be a
Yeah,
pop-up message or an email
yeah,
that you get
exactly.
notified about.
Can even be a text message if you buy text messaging from us. But yeah, email and an
Or text.
internal
Yeah.
message. So they are good. They work quite well. As Ed said, yeah, you can do them in email and SMS or an internal message. Okay, so can we use this to give multiple customers personal individual logins? Yeah, I suppose you could. So you could say, okay, well, you've got one person that has access to this site and they can have access to it, and then you could do another user that gives access to another site. Yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. So that's something you would like to do. We've tried to. Okay, Simon, your last question. We've tried to remove FGAS from Clik Remote. We've tried, but it still remains. Okay, that's something you might need to just log a tech support incident with. If that's something that we can't do, we will look at that and we will put it in our items of Jira to see if we can get that removed if you're not using FGAS in Clik Remote. Okay, I think that's it for
Yeah,
questions.
Just ask Simon his company so we can log a ticket for him.
Cool. Okay, I think that is it for questions. I don't think there's any more. If you have any queries, please speak to your account manager. They will be able to get in touch with you. So you should be able to see that on the form now on the screen. So there's our number and there's our email address. So just get in touch if you have any questions about Clik Remote Site and Clik Remote Dashboard. This webinar is recorded, so you will see this again, so you can go through it again. And that's it really. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've taken something from this. And just get in touch if you want to look further into Clik Remote Site or Clik Remote Dashboard. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Speak to you all soon.